name is Alwynn. My last name is Taylor. And my business, it's a tailored motions.
There you go.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah. So it was easy. Yeah. So that's the name of my business.
Mhm.
And I subcontract. So I teach at a couple of studios in Toronto. And when March happened, I had to move very quickly and say the word that we've all heard a million times, pivot. I
Pivots.
pivoted. Yeah, I did.
Yes.
I pivoted very quickly, and I went online. And so I signed up with a provider
Mhm.
to host my classes, and I did that for like maybe 7 months,
Okay.
and it was going really well, and it was great. And then I was hearing a lot of pain points from the students that were coming to my class about frustrations, and I was like, oh wait, I'm not just a teacher, I'm now like a virtual studio owner.
Yes. All of a
and
sudden.
and so
Right.
how do I address this and figure out a solution? So yeah, that's what I did, and I changed softwares, and I'm on a different platform now, and it's taken a lot less headache out of the admin work, which is good.
Yes. Which is
So
great. Yeah.
yeah,
I had this conversation with Kenneth just the other day too. Actually, can you tip your camera up
yeah,
just a little
up
bit so you're
so like you can see my face.
right there you
I'm
are.
very allergic to technology and camera angles. It's like I talk to my mom and she's got the camera up to the ceiling, and I'm like, Mom,
Yeah.
turn it down. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm that old woman now that
No,
doesn't know how
we're
to angle the camera. Oh God.
it's all part of that pivot that we have to make, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
learning curve.
yeah.
But yeah, so Kenneth yesterday, or when was he?
A
Tuesday.
couple days ago. He's great.
Yeah,
Love him. Love him.
awesome. And
Hmm.
it's such a great conversation. But we took some time just at the beginning, just talking, diving deep on this technology thing, right? Because
Yeah.
that is that, for a lot of us, that is our pain point because we're movers and we're just kind of warm fuzzy. We want to help people,
Yeah.
type people, and then all of a sudden we're here doing research on different platforms and like spreadsheets to figure out what's the best,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So how did
Yeah.
you land at the first platform that you went to and then the one that you're on? What would you decide
Sure.
to go with those?
Sure. Yeah. And I've 100% cried at the end of a class when nothing has went right.
Oh boy.
I've screamed a million times at the computer. Yeah. So, the first platform I went with back in March, it was called NamaStream,
Mhm.
and it was great. It was great for me when I first started, mostly because everything was came to you at a million miles a minute, where
Yes.
your studios were closing. You didn't know what to do, and I just went with the first sort of thing, and
Yes.
that was very, I would say, it wasn't super intimidating
Yes.
for a Pilates teacher to be like, okay, how do I figure this out?
Right, just a quick learning curve.
I wouldn't say quick, but like a
Okay.
moderate learning curve.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so that's what I went with for a good few months, and I started to see that okay, this isn't going anywhere.
Mhm.
We're going to be teaching virtually for God knows how long. My comfort level better become very, like, it better become a lot more smooth. So tons of practice,
Yes.
um, being well prepared beforehand,
Yeah.
making sure that you're fully charged.
Right. Yeah. Your headphones are
All those things
charged.
that,
You have
yeah, that you
good
don't think
lighting.
about.
No,
Yeah,
it's true.
all those things that, and I'm still working on all of those things.
Yeah.
So I invested, and I got like a webcam, and I bought a ring light, and I did all of those things so that I could show up professionally.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and then the class is just, one person, nobody, two people, three people, 15 people.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, in real life, you can't, you never know what one day is going to be from the next. You can't try to understand people's human behavior as to why they
Right.
come at a Wednesday at 12:30 versus a Thursday at 6. You just never know.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I started to see, okay, there's this is happening. People are coming. All right. So then recently I just decided I thought I would jump on the bandwagon and be able to have an app.
Okay.
So yeah, I moved and now I'm with a provider called GlowFox.
Hmm.
So far so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I saw on your site you did like, I guess obviously pre-COVID, you did like retreats as
I
well.
did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I've hosted three now. The
Hmm.
first retreat I did in Mexico, that was 3 years ago.
Yes.
And then I did one last year around this time
Hmm.
in Nicaragua.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, I hosted one in a farm in near Markham, actually.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
it was a day, it was just an afternoon retreat. So
Yes.
so yeah, it was really nice.
That's great. Sorry, I see Blossom's comment here. The ring light, the Pilates teacher's rite of passage.
Oh
That's
my
what I'm teaching.
gosh. It's so true. And I don't even have mine on today, which is like big fail.
Yo, yeah.
Big fail. Yeah, Blossom, not good.
But
I love watching the behind the scenes of Blossoms. Like,
yes, I
you
know she's
know.
a wide frame and everything's cool there. My wife bought me this ring light long before I knew that I needed one, and I
Oh,
use it
good.
like it's yeah. I'm surprised it still works. I use it so much. It's so funny.
I'm doing a large corporate event next week, and we
Mhm.
had this tech test yesterday that I thought was going to be like easy peasy, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
45 minutes later, lo and behold, the company is sending me all of this tech stuff because I don't have the stuff.
Okay.
So they're like, okay, where's your Ethernet cable? And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Oh, nice.
Just tell me what you need me to take a picture of, the plugs or the this or the that. Yeah. So,
Yes.
so yes, the technology woes.
Yes. It's so funny, eh? Like we have to be all things. Like you're business owners, right? Like
Yeah.
we now like you're not just a Pilates teacher, you're a business owner, and your product
Yep.
happens to be Pilates. So we got to
Yes.
figure out like how to do all the other stuff around it.
Yeah. And then kind of when you're teaching and you're knowing that there's maybe something going on in the background in terms of people not being able to get in, or like you handled this morning, no sound.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna try to figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
Cool under pressure.
That's right. Exactly. I mean, like, there's your life analogy right there,
I
right?
am
Like, I
not
mean,
that. I
no,
am not that.
no,
No.
No Brazilians when it comes to stuff like that.
I've gotten better,
No.
but yeah, the beginning, absolutely not.
Yeah. I know.
Knocking things over, like just trying to make sure that you had like the perfect background, and then a picture would knock over. Like I think I was doing, what was I doing? Open leg rocker.
Mhm.
And the picture came like fell right over on top of me, but this is the genius. So I was able to push the picture back, complete the open leg rocker, not knock anything over or injure myself. I was like, that's why we do Pilates,
That's why we do Pilates.
for these random things,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah, and personal trainer used to say all the time, it's like that's the moment we train for. Like the time
Yep,
that you have to move something, catch yourself before you hit the ground on slipping on
yep,
ice. We train for
yep,
those moments.
yep. Yeah, and it was on camera.
There you
So
go.
that's another thing. This whole time, right? Everything's on camera now.
Hmm.
So I'm sick of like I can't, when I'm editing videos, I'm like, oh God, did I just say that word a million times?
Right.
Did I just, you're constantly, I have to really step back and be like, okay, this dark part of my brain, push it to the side.
Yes.
And, because I'm not used to that. I'm sure we all aren't.
It's interesting, right? Because I mean, you are looking at yourself with a critical eye,
Which is
and
good.
yeah, good or bad depends on how
True.
forgiving you are of yourself,
True. True.
right? So I mean, and I always have to do that. Like you look at things and you could cringe at it, or you could be like, ah,
Ooh,
it's gone, right? Like I mean, it's
yeah,
out there, it is
yeah,
what it is, and move
yeah,
on.
yeah. I posted a video a little while ago. I was inspired by this one sequence, and I did it, and I totally felt like ass over apple. Oh, can I say that?
Yeah, again, yeah.
Okay. I fell ass over apple cart. And I was like, you know, in the before time, I'd be like, oh, I cannot post that.
Hmm.
Absolutely no way. I can't post that I fell out of a pose or that I was, you know, trying something new.
Oh no,
And then I was like, nope, I'm just leaning into it. I'm posting the fall,
exactly.
you know? Yeah.
I love that term lean into it when you put it in that context because it's true, right? Like we want to have everything so polished
Ugh,
and so neat and tidy. And sometimes we
yeah.
just, like Amy say here, get told off repeating the same word all the time,
All the
right?
time.
Yep.
All the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And there's, but at the same time, that is what I love about Instagram is that people are embracing the authenticity of our posts and they
So
realize
true.
that it doesn't have to be polished and slick and shiny. It can be a fail.
Yeah.
And that is just as that makes just as much of a connection as, you know, that perfect post, right?
True.
So,
Because I think the failing means you're trying.
mhm,
And then, you know, that's the iterative learner. You do it better.
yes.
You do it again, you fail again, you do it better, you fall again, you fall differently, you try it differently. So it's I think that's great.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And the fact that we are celebrating that
Yes.
and feeling encouraged by our colleagues, which I think is so important, and by
Mhm.
teachers to say, you know, great job, or this is what I do, or inserting some humor,
Yes. Well,
you
yeah, that's what
know?
Amy and the comment there. Like you got to laugh at yourself too. Failing
Oh,
equals
yeah,
learning.
so true. Yep,
Yep.
yeah.
The yeah, the laugh at yourself part. That's I don't know if I laugh at myself. I can just roll with it. I can just own it. But like laughing at myself, I'm not sure about that piece. Like
Oh,
sometimes I
I
just
laugh.
do.
Yeah, I really do. I'm like, did that, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's just park that,
Right.
move on. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, it's too funny. I mean, that's the piece, right? Like, I mean, like we can just continue to just do that and just be real with it. And there are people see that. I don't know about you, but like my clients revel in that humanity, like the times that I'm late, the times that I mess something up, because
Yeah,
they put us on a pedestal sometimes, right? They put us in this place where we're the teachers we can do no wrong. So they want to see us like fail demonstrating an exercise. So they want to
yeah.
see those things too, because it just connects with their humanity. It's our humanity connecting with their humanity.
And to your point, people are saying that.
Yep.
Like students and clients are saying that I relate to that,
Hmm.
you know, and I remember one teacher and watching her saying I can't go to her class because I don't know how to do, let's say, snake on the reformer or whatever it is, and I'm
Right.
going to be embarrassed, and I am too shy or too scared to
Mm.
say I don't know how to do that, or
I need help
I
for,
need help, or
right.
yeah, you know. But then I faced that fear. I went to her class, and it wonderful teacher, great
Hmm.
teacher, and totally met me where I was, and then
Love that.
and to say I'm not there yet, or I'm too afraid to go that deep into extension or whatever it was,
Yes.
and then totally feeling supported by that.
Yeah.
And
No, that's
so,
awesome.
and you know, which is hard because we're not, it has to be virtually now, so you got to like do that thing that we would do in real life
Hmm.
here now,
Right.
which surprisingly works.
And I was going to ask you, like, how have you done that? Like, do you have any tips for how you found that that's worked for you?
um I think it's just really being honest to say, this is we're going to try, I have an idea of how this, let's just say, like if you're doing a one-on-one reformer virtually,
Hmm.
you have an idea of how that what you're going to work on,
Yeah.
but that may not work out, and you have to be like, oh, you're going to move your camera, you have to move the camera angle, you have to do this, you have to do that.
Yes.
But then it becomes this, it becomes like teamwork.
Yes. Yes.
It
Yeah,
becomes teamwork, and I
absolutely.
and then the student feels um, validated
Hmm.
because you, the teacher, is like, actually, you know what, that's not going to work, or let's try it this
Yes.
way, or you know,
Yes.
I messed up that, whatever it is.
Hmm.
So it becomes a lot more, I don't know,
Collaborative.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's what I have found,
I think
is
so.
that
Yeah. No,
just
sorry.
being honest.
Hmm. I love the word teamwork in there because like really like we think that we're on a stage sometimes, right? Like
Yeah,
we are performing
performance.
when the reality is that this is a
We're
collaborative
not.
effort, you know? And
Yeah,
Martin Phil's just saying sometimes we just take ourselves too seriously. We need to flub, laugh, and more importantly, have fun with our clients.
that's so true.
Pilates should be fun and learning at its best when our clients are having fun.
Hmm.
It's yes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that can come across. It can
Yeah.
come across online.
Hmm.
You can the energy and the, when, you know, when people choose to have their cameras on, and you can see the smiles, you can see the laughter, you can see
Yes.
the, and then having that community moment after class or before class to just check in.
So key. There's a yeah, I want to talk about that in a second. There's a whole thing on the vagus nerve and how that actually is exercise, and it's interesting how that ties
Yeah.
into it. But what you're saying about teamwork and that collaborative piece, I think it's interesting too that we have, because we think of it as so performative, that we are doing something for our clients. And
Hmm.
I've said it this way, where it's like I'm coming alongside you in your fitness journey.
Yeah,
So
100%.
while we're doing it in that way, we are going to have to figure some things out. I'm going to be wrong sometimes,
Hmm.
and I'm going to give you something and I'm going to be, oh, well, let's just stop that. Hey, let's
Yep.
go this way instead. And
Yep.
and this is our journey. This is how we figure this out together, and this is how we get to your goal together,
Yes.
not me taking you there, us getting there together. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love that teamwork piece, that honesty, that you said it earlier, or actually I think I read it somewhere, about curiosity and intrigue,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
when we're curious and when we're just intrigued with just that learning process
Yep.
of the person in front of us, that just takes us so far in that connection.
You know, and that took for me a lot of years to get there. I mean, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of years. I've only been teaching for 8 years, which is like this much. And then,
Yes.
you know, you think you know something, and then you realize that you know nothing.
Right. Yes.
Uh, which is humbling. Um, but it took me a long time to say, like, it's not a performance. This is not a dance recital. It's,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned that from my teachers,
Yeah.
um, that we are, there's no finish line. I mean, yes, the class ends at this time, but
Yes. Yes.
it's not a race. It's not a race to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
And take the time to get there, and take the time to feel where you are at the time. Your
Yes.
practice is different every single time you get to the mat,
Right.
and your expectations have to then flow. Oh, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think as a
Sorry.
teacher, that's important too.
You right.
I remember one class I taught, I was like determined to teach this sequence with a magic circle.
Mm.
And I wasn't confident myself in the sequence.
Okay.
But I was like, no, they're going to get this. They were so confused.
Oh.
I was so confused.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like crash and burn. So
Oh.
much so that after class, I think I emailed some of the students, and I was like, I just wanted to personally apologize for that disaster of a class.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But they were like, are you okay? Like, I'm
Right.
not even thinking, like, then that's where I go way too
You,
far down the rabbit hole.
right.
But yeah, I was determined that this was going to happen, and I couldn't see the forest through the trees. I couldn't see the fact that I had lost control,
Hmm.
and students were confused. I was confused,
Right.
and that's a moment where you're like, nope, okay, change
But
course.
in that moment, we could unpack that for a second. Like, did you go into that like this is gonna be awesome and this is gonna flow so great? Like,
No,
what was your thought
no.
going into it?
My thought was like, oh, sorry,
You can
get
just say
yourself
whatever.
together,
Yes.
Alwynn. Get yourself together, Alwynn. You're the teacher. They're looking to you like you've taken them this far. You can't go back now.
Right.
Like that was just pure ego or
Right.
pure, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But it was not a good light. And I didn't feel good after that class.
Right. We were just
And
trying to save it, like with each exercise, thinking, okay, this is gonna pull it back in. Like,
yep,
yeah.
yep. And then they're like, I think you meant the right side. I'm like, I meant left. You know, it was.
That's
Meanwhile, I'm like,
awesome.
that's
That's
exactly what I
so
meant. I meant the
funny.
right side, but I will
Yeah.
not. I will not say that I meant that. What is that about?
Right.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
Yeah. We don't talk about those like those moments of learning. Let's not even call it failures. Let's those learning
Sure,
moments too much,
sure,
right? Like, yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and but going back to your point, where that was not a team experience.
Yeah.
That did not feel good for those students. It did not feel good to me.
Hmm.
And and rightly so, that some of those people probably didn't come back.
Right. Right.
And so it's those moments where it's like you got to check yourself a little bit
Yeah.
and be like, okay, because it's kind of a lonely business we're in
It can be
a
if we
little
don't
bit.
look at it like if you don't look at
Yeah,
it like you're saying about it. It was
yeah,
actually your point, not my point about the teamwork,
yeah,
but
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, true.
yeah.
But it was like I didn't really, I didn't take it upon myself to check in with another teacher after,
Hmm.
to unpack what I was feeling in that moment or where it went wrong. I just
Yep.
internalized it.
Right.
And but this was a few years ago. So now going back to that point of an iterative learner, you do it better, you learn.
Yes.
So that's the whole process of
Absolutely.
teaching, I
Yeah.
think, of finding your voice, of not trying to be everything to everyone,
Yes.
which is hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. How did you find Pilates originally?
Oh, uh, I used to I used to play competitive tennis
Okay.
back in a long time ago,
Okay.
back in the day,
Yes.
and Pilates was part of our fitness.
Really? In tennis?
Yeah, yeah,
Very
in
cool.
tennis.
Yeah.
Granted, we weren't doing the full repertoire,
Yep.
but Pilates was part of what we did, and then prior to that, I danced, and I was a diver, and so sport had always been something that my dad used to joke, like, she wakes up and her legs go and her mouth goes. That I was just moving from a really young age.
Yes.
Um, and so I used to teach tennis,
Okay.
and I loved it. I loved teaching tennis. It was the most rewarding thing. Teaching children, teaching adults, just watching their success,
Yes.
and showing up for them and being so supportive. And I had very two different styles of teachers or mentors growing up. I had like my ballet teachers, and then I had my tennis teachers. And my ballet teachers were all aesthetics, performance, perfection.
Yes.
And my tennis teachers were like, you did a great job. Like,
Yes.
yeah, great footwork today, or let's
Uh-huh.
have fun. It was a totally different, very different.
Right.
And then when I was teaching, my natural instinct was to be like the teachers that influenced me.
Right.
Um, so I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, how you found
Huh.
Pilates, but
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
right.
yes,
Okay, so then fast forward a million years.
right.
So then I worked in public relations after tennis and blah blah blah, event planning, weddings, blah 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 blah. So I got fired from a PR job. I lived abroad. I lived in like the Middle East and Mexico City and France and Spain, and came back to Toronto, and I was just bankrupt emotionally and didn't really know what I was going to do. So I was like, I'll just go
Yes.
back into PR. Worked there for 6 months, got fired, which was the best thing ever. I really got to like send her a thank you note. Um, anyway, so then I had a lot of come to Jesus meetings of like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm 34. What am I going to do? And my mom said to me that, why don't you teach Pilates? And I was like, I can't, that can't just be like my job. And she said, why not? And I was like, well, I don't know if I can do that as a job full time.
Yeah.
So I did my teacher training, my first mat training with body harmonics.
Okay.
This was back in like 2013, 14,
Hmm.
I think. Maybe, no, maybe earlier than that. 2012, I think. Anyway, so so I got my certification and I
Yes.
went on the good old Google and I was like, okay, top Pilates studios in Toronto. I think I even emailed Lily
Oh
and
yeah.
I was like, hi. She was like, we're a classical studio. You know, she was so sweet about it. She's like,
Yes.
you gotta, put the hours in.
Yes.
So I did energy exchange. So I like
Okay.
cleaned the toilets. I cleaned the toilets. I did the laundry. I swept the floors and
Yes.
I observed. I
Yes.
observed teachers teaching. And, I would sit behind the desk and it was a great audio exercise because I was like
Yes.
listening to the teachers teaching.
Yes.
So like that was already starting, my tools were starting to sharpen then. I didn't know
Yes.
it really.
Right.
Um, so, and then okay, then you got to teach for the owner of the studio,
Hmm.
and then you hopefully you get a couple subs, and then
Yeah.
people to give feedback, and then you get a class, and that's how
Yes.
it started. And then it
Yes.
just kind of like, and I
Great.
at one point I was teaching at like 7 different studios, biking all over the city.
Yes.
Checks were bouncing. I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can do this.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had my break, if you want to call it.
Okay.
So I know Anula.
Hmm.
So I think it was like 4 years ago now. She had come to Toronto and I had taken a workshop. I just got fired from that studio, but I was like, I'm taking this workshop.
Yeah.
And after the workshop, I said to her, like, let's go out for a drink. Is anyone hosting you? Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So we had planned for a whole bunch of us to go to this bar to have a drink, and no one else showed up. So it was just myself. And
There you go.
we just started, I think we talked about Pilates for maybe 20 minutes. And then we just
Yes.
talked about life. And we
Amazing.
talked about our families and we talked about our whys. Why are we doing this?
Hmm.
And she said to me, I'm doing this European tour. Do you want to come? And
Oh, very cool.
I said, we've had like a bottle of wine.
Yes.
If tomorrow morning you decide to change your mind, I totally get it. Zero hard feelings. And she sends me an email the next day and said, so these are the dates. Are you coming? And the second time I met her was at the airport.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I learned so much during that trip, like
What an
critical thinking,
amazing
meta.
opportunity.
Yeah. And we didn't know each other at all.
Hmm.
And I had so many moments of like, oh my gosh, this is how I want to teach, and this is how I
Yeah.
want to think about exercises and how I want to think about the movement. And I'll be eternally grateful to her and for that opportunity. You know, I was like I said, the second time we met was at Customs in New York, and we're doing
That's
this,
so
on a
crazy.
budget. So we're
Yeah.
like we're sharing a bedroom at the, I don't know, Comfort Inn, far away from where the studio is, because the studio is like a very expensive postal code. So we,
Right.
you know, we got to save costs, and we're, you know,
Hmm.
so so we're trying to figure all that out,
Yes.
rolling our suitcases up these like horrible cobblestone streets after no sleep, being in the studio for 8 hours, and people are like, so how is that? It's like, it's exactly like it would be anywhere else,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. All you can think about is like, when are we eating? When
Right.
are we having food?
Right.
And how do we understand this menu in Swedish? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like, that
That's
was my journey into
amazing.
Pilates. Yep.
Yes.
I started very humbly, and I started with energy exchange, and that was the best.
Yes.
And then I
Awesome.
just started, and then I started to say yes to everything.
Yes.
Like, yes to
That's
every client, yes to every job, yes
huge.
to every single thing.
Right. Now,
And
if
then
you,
you start, and then you realize you got to say no. But
what's, yeah, eventually.
yeah,
But I mean, when you start with those yeses, you get to understand what you like and what you don't like, and you start saying
yeah.
yes to more stuff that's aligned with your personal vision and who you
Mhm.
are at the core of your
Mhm.
being. And then it's not that
Yep.
hard to say no to the other stuff because you're too busy
True.
saying yes to the stuff that you're really passionate about.
True. Yeah.
I'm not
You
like,
you asked me like
yes,
what my ideal client was.
yeah,
And I think, at the beginning, my ideal client was like whoever's going to pay me.
yeah.
That's my ideal client.
That's a dangerous answer, but yes. Yeah.
Is like, is yeah.
Yeah.
And then you start to realize like, oh, I don't feel good. I don't feel like I'm showing up as my best self. I feel tired. I feel run over. I don't think that they actually want to be there. But you start to really, I think, start to know your intuition, and you start to listen to those voices, and you start to hone your skills.
Yes.
And those only come by saying all those yeses and taking
Hmm.
all those like graveyard shifts or super early morning classes and
Double
teaching to one
shifts and
person.
yeah.
Yeah, or no one showing up and you still got
Hmm.
to be there.
Yep.
But that comes only with doing those things.
We're not often, I mean, that's, you're talking like Gary Vaynerchuk right now, right? Like, if you want to get in the industry, you got to just like be around the people that are the best. Like you can,
Hmm.
there's that raw, grind it,
Yep.
take no days off mentality to
Yep.
get there, which, it does, we do need to do that for a season to understand what we need to do.
True.
And then you land at who your ideal client is. So who would you say
Yeah.
that that person is now?
Oh, my ideal client. I think it loops back to, the things we were talking about today. So
Hmm.
teamwork,
Yep.
iterative learner,
Yes.
um, someone who's really curious,
Yes.
someone who, um, and I, so Sonia, Sonia Herbert Price.
Yes.
Yeah, is that, am I,
Yeah.
did
Yeah,
I,
that's right.
yeah,
That's
right.
right.
So I was listening to a podcast she was on, and she was like, I like to look at, my classes. I'm a mad scientist.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's genius.
Yes.
That's genius. So looking at it as like, okay, where are you today?
Yes.
And what are we going to do today?
Right.
So that ideal client is someone who is excited, who likes to explore, who really wants to be there,
Yes.
who cares about their practice,
Yes.
and who respects the time, respects the fact that it's not perfect, and it's not going to be perfect,
Right.
and there are a lot of hours you have to put into it in order to get to X.
Yes.
There's no quick fix.
Mm-mm.
It's exercise. It's not a performance. So someone that just, I guess, really, really wants to be there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
is like an active listener, and where they have those aha moments
Yes.
when they are, I don't know, bending down to pick up their grandchild, or lifting something heavy, and they're like, oh, I'm doing Pilates.
Yes.
Or I'm remembering that thing that Alwynn was making me do, lifting my arms up for God knows why. Oh, this is why. So,
Yes.
you know, where they're like they're in it
And they're making their own
for
connections.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's like they don't need like yeah, they don't need me.
right. Isn't that
So,
funny? Like any good trainer, Pilates instructor, fitness professional always struggles with that paradox of the fact that if you're doing your job really well, you're training a
hmm
person to not need you anymore, and they're gonna
yeah.
keep coming back because they're so appreciative of the fact that you've given them that independence and that education in their movement.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we're training them to send them out, and then they never actually leave if you're doing a good job of it.
That's
Like,
true.
yeah.
That's true. That's true. Or, you know, or there comes, I think with everything, there's a life cycle.
Yes.
You know, so that then that client or student
Mhm.
um does something else for a little bit and then comes back
Well,
or doesn't come
yeah.
back.
Well,
You
that
know,
life cycle is interesting because I say that anyone I've ever like shook hands with is my client for life. And I may see
yeah.
you every single day, or I may see you every 10 years. You're still my client. I'll still reach out. Happy birthday.
hmm
How's it going? How's your
Yeah.
movement going? What's going on with this? Like, like I just keep like they're my client. If I've touched them, they're my client for life.
Yeah.
Like that's the life cycle, right? Like,
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And you know, as well, I think it's also important to you know to know your students' names.
yes,
Like that's just baseline.
right.
But if we're talking about that teamwork and if we're talking about a collaboration and if we're talking about something way deeper than single leg circle,
Mhm.
and if we're talking about that relationship, there has to be that. Like you show up as a teacher and
Yes.
you show up and you got to care.
Mhm.
I mean I think so at least.
I totally agree with you, like 100%.
And you know checking up, sending them emails, birthday reminders, holidays, and you know and remembering what they talked to you about,
Absolutely.
and then say, oh, that remember that time you were saying you were doing that? How did that go?
Mhm.
I
So
think that's really important and very
it's so
simple.
significant and simple. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I think that you know especially with one-on-ones, I think that's really important.
Yes. No, absolutely.
So where it's not just transactional. And you know, and there are some teachers that and that's that.
Yep.
That's great. But
Mhm.
for me personally, I I don't view um my work as transactional.
Mhm.
I really care
Yep.
and I want it to show up in a really authentic way.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and that to be fair to the other side of that too, there are clients who want to just be a face in the crowd,
100%.
who want to just be like
Yep.
transactional. Don't
Yep.
talk to me about anything personal. I'm here to
Yep.
get my workout in and out.
100%.
And they're there. And then and their Joseph is there, right? Like their
Yep.
person that they're connecting with
Totally.
will do that for them in a really, really
Yeah.
good job.
I also think to that point, as a teacher, I think you have to really know who the person is in front of you. So if
Absolutely.
you're working like at a studio or a gym or whatever, and that person comes for a one-on-one with you, you got to read that person
Hmm.
because it's not everything is going to be the same way all the time.
Right.
So you got to
Yeah.
wear different hats. You got to be able to
Hmm.
adapt your language, adapt your teaching, adapt to who it is that you're teaching. Because not all the time, you're not always going to have your ideal client.
Yeah.
So, and you know, you'd be surprised. I have had those students where it's been super transactional,
Hmm.
and I've learned a lot.
Yeah,
I've learned a lot from those sessions
for
and from those
sure.
people.
Yeah.
So I think each opportunity can be a really great learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are at 55 minutes.
What?
Thank you.
No
Yes.
way. Get out of here.
And I just wanted to say this before we go. You have sent me so many messages over like the last few months, like when Laura was on about scoliosis
Yes,
or
I
about
have scoliosis. She's
oh,
great.
you're so happy about your scoliosis.
I am.
Um, and but I really just want to say thank you so much for just cheering me on, and I like those messages do mean a lot. And even like
Martin,
today, like we're going through this week, and like we have this big event tomorrow, and I'm
I
speaking, and
know.
like it's a lot of stuff going on. But these conversations give me energy. Like I don't dread coming into this knowing that there's 700 things I still have to do, like this is life-giving for me. So just thank you for your
Oh,
time.
thank you. Thank you for all
Hmm.
you're doing and all the amazing and wonderful and inspiring teachers from all over that you bring on. And it's like, it's just so great. So good job.
Thank you. Instead of fist bump, elbow bump,
I, I
social
don't,
distance.
I don't, I don't know. Yeah. Virtual hug.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of that. Was there any more comments here? There's a bunch of people who popped in. Thank you, everyone who just joined us. See,
Thank you.
Rest Pilates, Janelle, RMT, a lot of Canadian people this week. This has been a very
Woohoo.
cool Canadian content.
Love it.
Loving it. All right, I'm gonna sign you off, and I'll send
Sounds
you
good.
our the replay later.
Good. So you end it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
You did great. This technically challenge. You
Oh,
killed it
thank
today.
you.
Yes.
When
All
the
right.
sound wasn't working, I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Nah,
Okay.
just play it cool.
That's it. You got to roll with
You
it.
just gotta roll with it. Yeah,
Got to roll with it.
we
Okay.
rolled with it.
Have a great day, Martin. I'll
Thanks, you
see you
too.
Friday.
Yes. All right, Alan. Later.
Bye. See ya.
We made it, guys. Thank you so much. We're freestyling tomorrow, and then I'm doing the BB conference at 11.